Now, Absa Group recently concluded its rebranding, outlining its new business strategy to deliver on ambitious goals, including the prioritization of Absa Corporate and Investment Banking. In the studio with me to expand on these issues is Temi Ofong, he's co-CEO of the division. Thank you for coming through, Temi. Welcome.
Thank you.
I was going to say, you can either look at this thing, in two ways. You can say it's a huge opportunity in terms of the rebranding. You know, you go back to market and you say, this is who we are, this is what we are. Or it could also be a tough one to get into the market with. If you get some of the kind of reaction that we have seen since the rebranding, where some people have come and said, oh, is this company the same as that one that does mobiles and. From your perspective, what does it represent?
Look, I think it represents a really exciting opportunity for us. You know, I think of it more like a reboot of the brand.
Sure.
You know, the separation from Barclays has been a really, really important milestone in our journey. And now as a fully independent Pan-African bank, you know, we're able to really, I think, calibrate our strategy and our associated activities to this continent and really to pursue what we believe are enormous growth opportunities out there.
Yeah, you are rebranding, but you're also carrying a name from the past. And some people have said, in part, you're carrying a name that was created during apartheid, and perhaps that might be a drag in terms of repositioning yourself and trying to present the bank as a new, as an energized player, if you like.
Look, as you can imagine, you know, before you embark on something like a rebranding, there's a huge amount of research and analysis that goes into it. We must have done over 100,000 interviews across Africa.
Sure.
Another 80-something thousand over the phone, internal, external, and you know, we arrived at the answer we arrived at.
Sure.
You know, the Absa brand has good brand equity. It's well recognized.
Sure.
And I think, you know, you're always going to have detractors, but by and large, I think, you know, the rebranding has been very well received.
Yeah. Tell me, those interviews missed me. Anyway.
I'll remember that for next time.
Let's talk about your specific responsibility.
Yeah. So I look after the corporate banking business specifically within Absa CIB.
Right.
So that's our vanilla financing, short-term financing, transactional banking products, so cash management, trade, etc.
And in terms of opportunities, where are you seeing that opportunity that you want to use this new energy to try to get into?
Look, we see really huge opportunity in a number of areas. You know, today a lot of our activities are concentrated, you know, in our presence markets. So there's opportunity to look at opportunities outside of our existing network. So if you look at West Africa, North Africa, places like Angola, there's opportunity there. In certain product lines, we believe we are subscale and we have a real opportunity as a Pan-African bank to really upweight our activities in those areas.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant when I said it's about recalibrating, you know, our activities to the opportunities on the continent.
Yeah.
Now that we're a fully Pan-African institution as opposed to, you know, a subsidiary of a global firm.
For sure. Let's talk about that Africa opportunity and where you guys are going. Of course, we know in Southern Africa you are there. In the north of Africa, however, it's more like going over the old Barclays name and becoming Absa, right?
So north of South Africa, obviously the banks still operate as Barclays. But over time you will see, you know, the rebrand happen.
Yeah.
But in terms of opportunity that we see it in, you know, if you look at areas like project finance, there's still an enormous opportunity as we seek to deal with the infrastructure gap on the continent.
Yeah.
If you look at commodity-based financing, huge opportunities in a number of areas. But also if you think about, you know, trade finance, driving more trade across Africa.
Yeah.
You know, today in Africa, I think intra-Africa trade only accounts for 30% of all trade, whereas in Asia it's near at 70%. So, you know, we see a big opportunity in that space as well, and we intend to go after it. You know, our new strategy is really about us getting our fair share of the wallet.
Right.
You know, how we rise to our natural market share in certain markets or certain product lines.
Yeah.
And you know, what's been great to see is the response from our customers and clients.
Yeah.
You know, they really enjoy the brand, they want to do business with us.
Yeah.
So we really feel that, you know, this is going to be about us gaining market share, not necessarily relying on kind of the rising tide lifting all ships.
Absolutely.
You know, in a more buoyant economic environment.
Yeah, I was going to put my question another way and saying it means that you are going to be taking on the other bank. Can I mention it? I can. Standard Bank. Competition within that space. How do you see that affecting perhaps your ability to grow as quickly as you can? Or do you go into those geographies where perhaps some of the bigger players or some of the more established banks here in South Africa that have been in the continent? I mean, we know certainly Standard Bank has been in more places than you guys from an Absa perspective. You also look at Nedbank with the tie-up with EcoBank have certainly been there. What do you do? Do you go to new geographies or do you go there and you simply present your value proposal?
Look, first and foremost, we've always been there, right? So we are competing in those markets today. This, like I said, it's really about us trying to get to what we believe is our natural market share. But when you look at these different countries across the continent, and we always have to be careful not to paint the same brush.
Yes, of course.
In certain countries, the local banks are really powerful competitors.
Right.
If you take a place like Nigeria, the Nigerian banks are formidable competitors.
Sure.
But that's in Nigeria.
So what do you do there?
Well, what we do there, we actually have a rep office in Nigeria at the moment. We do a lot of M&A and we do trade finance.
Okay.
And we've recently gotten securities licenses to do domestic capital markets.
Okay.
So, it's for us, it's really about how we can follow our customers across the continent. As a Pan-African bank with a broad network, we really feel that that is something that a lot of our clients like having to deal with.
Yeah.
A single bank across multiple geographies.
Yeah.
And the seamlessness with which we deliver that service, I think is a winning proposition for us. And as we drive harder on certain product lines and do more with those clients, we think there's going to be, upside, not just for us, but also obviously for our clients in the areas in which we choose to compete.
Yeah. I was battling in my head whether to ask you first about Ethiopia or to ask you about the clients that are going into the continent. Maybe let me begin with the clients that are going into the continent. Where are you seeing that requirement for the financial services that you guys provide in terms of sectors from the South African perspective?
So maybe let's talk about who are these clients, right? So, the first lot I would say are South African outbound. These are South African companies expanding into the rest of Africa. But a very exciting segment is also what I call regional multinationals. These are large African conglomerates that are expanding across Africa, who are looking to do more outside of their domestic markets. Yeah. And then obviously you've got multinationals as well. So it really depends, I guess, on what the client is seeking to do. Yeah. But, if you want to be credible on the continent and want to be able to say you're truly Pan-African, I think you really have to be able to follow your clients where they go. Yeah. Now, you can do so in a number of ways. You don't have to always have the physical footprint, in a country.
You can take a suitcase and follow them.
You can take a suitcase and follow them. You can partner with other institutions.
Sure.
One of the really exciting things about us since we started separating from Barclays has actually been the interest from other banks to partner with us as we seek to think about how we can follow our clients across the continent. So I think that's been an exciting opportunity for us.
Sure.
And we look to carry on doing that. Or you can physically enter a territory, as we said earlier.
Quickly, Temi, we've got less than a minute left to get into Ethiopia. I wanted to understand in terms of the fees that you get when you go into the continent, how do they compare with what you get here in South Africa? The suggestion is always that, because the risk is higher, you get higher fees.
Look, I think you have to look at things on a risk-adjusted basis, right? Sure. So,
you're a banker, right?
The absolute amount is not necessarily a reflection of the value or the risk. You have to think about it on a risk-adjusted basis. Yeah. But, I think these markets are very competitive. I don't think it's easy for anyone. So I don't think there's obvious rich pickings out there. Sure. I think you have to work hard for your money and to deliver value for customers.
Ethiopia?
Interesting market, still closed, but I think everyone is watching it. It's opening up, but I think everyone's watching it very, very carefully. And in due course, I'm sure it will be something we will also have to think about.
Absolutely. Temi, thanks for coming through today.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Temi is the co-CEO of Absa Corporate.